The date that I'm writing the script for this video is June 7th, 2021. By this time, this video would be released far into the future. The reason I wish to talk about the date is that at this time, there's currently a TikTok trend where people are making their own fan-made Adult Swim adverts, allowing them to flourish their creative muscles and create something that's sometimes odd, sometimes surreal, sometimes truthful, but always beautiful in a different way, which got me thinking, why do we love Adult Swim? But before we get to talk about that, we gotta talk about our shared experience with Adult Swim growing up. My first introduction into Adult Swim was probably when I was like 10. I was staying up a Friday night watching the retro block that had Courage the Cowardly Dog and I Am Weasel. Anyways, after 8 o'clock, I was introduced into my first forays of adult animation. Now I'm gonna be honest, it didn't really impress me at first because the first show on the block was King of the Hill, which doesn't really appeal to 10-year-olds, but as I stayed up later and later, I was able to watch some really good content that appealed to me, like classic Family Guy, like the earlier seasons where the jokes were actually funny and didn't have too many cutaways, and one of my personal favorites, the Boondocks, which I am not qualified to speak on because I am not black nor do I wish to speak over black voices. But I gotta say this, Ed and Rummy were funnier than Uncle Ruckus. That is all I have to say about that. Anyways, back to the subject on hand. As I stayed up more and more, I actually got into Toonami, which was one of my first forays into diverse anime like Fullmetal Alchemist, whereas I grew up watching gaming anime like Pokemon and Beyblade. I actually got to see what anime can do without the limits of thinking of the children. As I got older and older, I started watching Adult Swim more and more, like Robot Chicken or Eric Andre. Not to mention the music videos, which were completely unique and trippy, far from something you would see on the YouTube recommended page at the time. And the bumpers where you're trying to find the Adult Swim logo, pure genius. What I'm trying to say is this. Adult Swim was a channel that was ambitiously creative and completely different than anything else. The programming was unlike anything I ever saw, and it just wasn't one thing. It was a variety of different genres. It was raunchy, it was surreal, it was chaotic. It was and probably still is different from all the other TV channels which usually stick to one single theme. Example, Animal Planet, Animals, TLC, Shock and Schlock, CMT, country stuff. The point is Adult Swim took risk, and now I am going to tell you why. First things first, let's look into Adult Swim's origins. The head of Cartoon Network's programming wanted to create a block that appealed to mainly teens or young adults who might be watching after 11, experimenting with the uncensored cuts of old cartoons like Tex Avery. In fact, the official foray into Cartoon Network's goal of appealing to an adult audience was Space Ghost to Coast. Yeah, did I say that right? I think so. Like in 1994. For the next few years, new shows were unexpectedly put on the air out of nowhere, like Harvey Birdman or Aqua Teen Hunger Force, under a special schedule called Special Programming. Then finally, Adult Swim finally premiered on September 2nd, 2001, debuting with an episode of Home Movies. Now, I do not wish to get into the full history of the channel because that would make for a long video, which I do not have the time nor patience to edit for, so I'll preface it with me doing some jumps here and there, discussing only the parts that I deem significant. Now, let's start with discussing second chances. On April 20th, 2003, 420, I know, Family Guy first premiered reruns after being cancelled in 2002 by Fox and quickly grew in popularity to the point that Fox revived the show with its return in 2005. A similar fate happened with Futurama, where it was revived in 2007 by Comedy Central after high rerun ratings as a series of short specials before returning to proper series format in 2010. I mean, in 2012, as a run-in joke for April Fools, they brought back the legendary anime block Toonami, with Adult Swim asking its audience on social media if they should bring it back by using hashtag bring back Toonami, with it officially being revived in May 26, 2012, allowing for more adult anime to play on Toonami. So now that we got that out of the way, we got to talk about the original programming. Let's start with the Boondocks, an anime-inspired satire of Americana in all shapes and forms. Due to the Boondocks' ambitiousness and overall themes, it was difficult to appeal to network television stylings of Fox. However, Adult Swim picked the series up and told them to instead tell stories, allowing it to explore multiple topics of America, primarily race, while also having random stories that are just plain entertainment for the sake of entertainment. Now, Robot Chicken, it was designed as just the idea of having toys and pop culture do weird shit. Basically, no plot, just weird toys doing weird shit. You want to know what all of this has in common besides the channel that they were on? Let me answer that for you. They were successful. You want to know why? Because Adult Swim didn't do what they thought would appeal to the average audience who were based on network television sensibilities. They allowed creators to be free. They allowed their programming to be free, allowing for creativity to flourish. Now, don't even get me started on the music. It varied from dubstep to chill beats to metal, often showcasing artists like Lil Booty Call or Flying Lotus. These artists are not exactly household names, nor do they have a McDonald's meal, but they have a small yet loving audience, and that's what Adult Swim does. They gave these music artists a means to express themselves artistically. Overall, Adult Swim gave way to multiple creative opportunities, and let me say, it was more than successful, especially in the internet age. For example, let me talk about Adult Swim's flagship show. You know, the one that launched 1,000 copypastas. The one whose fans stormed McDonald's for sauce. I am of course talking about Rick and Morty. Thanks to the show's ability to balance its comedy with some moments of actual humanity, the internet ate Rick and Morty up. Now, I'm not saying that Rick and Morty was a pioneer for the network. I mean, look at Moral Oral, a show that managed to satirize WASP Christianity while showing actual humanity into the plot. But Moral Oral was, and probably is not as talked about by a large audience in the way that Rick and Morty is, which I could believe can be due to the increased influence that social media has currently than compared to the past. Anyways, thanks to the large audience that loved Rick and Morty, the show became a household name, selling merchandise like gangbusters, and gaining such an influence that it was even advertised in Pringles at the Super Bowl. Another case that could be said with an extremely successful show could be the Eric Andre show, whose chaotic and surreal nature acted as an antithesis towards the typically safe-for-work attitudes of talk shows like James Corden or Jimmy Kimmel. Thanks to the show's own chaotic nature, they became prime gold mines for memes needed to the meme show pipeline, attracting a present and entertained audience. In short, Adult Swim allowed creativity to flourish and grow, and not only that, but allowed itself to adapt to the current media space, advancing its status from just a place where anyone can watch King of the Hill reruns or gross out humor, but as a place of chaotic, creative shows that people wanted to see, cementing itself as a respectable block of television. However, its growth is somewhat mirrored in another similar channel who also had similar intentions of appealing to the young adult audience. If you read the title of this video, you, the viewer, know exactly what I mean. I am of course talking about MTV. Now, before we get into the issues about current MTV, we must go back into the past. Now, surprise, surprise for anyone out there, but MTV actually stands for Music Television Network. Shocking, I know. Anyways, it was designed to be a network that played music videos for just 24 hours straight and was only focused on the music. And on August 1st, 1981, it was released into the world. And the first music video that was played on the network was quite fitting. Video Killed the Radio Star by the Bugles. Anyways, the network paved the way for new creative acts from a variety of different genres, from hard rock with Van Halen to classic rock with David Bowie. gaining an audience of mainly teenagers who wished to rebel against conformity. Though one of MTV's most significant contributions was giving a new platform for black artists, although this was not always the case, as according to the network's head of programming, Buzz Brindle, MTV was originally designed to be a rock music channel. It was difficult for MTV to find African American artists whose music fits in the channel's format that leaned toward rock at the outset, and that MTV did not play much black music because of research. However, thanks to a stern dressing down by CBS Records exec Walter Yetnikoff, who threatened to pull MTV's rights to their music unless they put on more black music, and one of the first most prominent black performers was no other than Michael Jackson, whose Billie Jean video was credited as the video that broke the color barrier, even though the channel itself was responsible for erecting that barrier in the first place, according to the Austin Chronicle. As the years went on, MTV pivoted from doing just music videos to pursuing its own original content. This was most evident in the 1990s with shows like Beavis and Butthead and Daria, which not only featured good music, but also had enjoyable narratives that appealed to the average teenage audience at the time. In the 2000s, MTV started veering into the more reality-based content with shows like The Tom Green Show, The Osbournes, and Punk'd, with it still featuring music videos. However, when the previous MTV era appealed to a niche audience of rock and rollers and pop, came the new wave of teen pop, which appealed to mainly anyone. This marked a shift in ideology from the network, which celebrated underrated music forms, to becoming the man, according to the words of Dewey Finn. Specifically, the shift to reality content and teen pop music was a means of trying to appeal to the general audience. So did it work? The answer is yes. MTV became so successful at appealing to a new audience that it drove straight into the reality direction, as seen with the era's crown jewel, Jersey Shore, which attracted multiple criticisms for lack of substance and perpetuating anti-intellectualism. But it did not matter. The network was doing gangbusters. However, paradise does not last forever, as after the cancellation of Jersey Shore, the network was severely crippled. But wait, you may ask, they still had music videos. Well, now, because they put all their chips into the Jersey Shore and reality-based content, it led to less music videos being on MTV. Not to mention, thanks to the growth of YouTube, record labels did not have to rely on MTV to publicize their music for two main reasons. One, you could easily search up any music artist on YouTube and get it in a snap without wait. Two, more and more people were starting to recognize YouTube as a viable means for entertainment without any need for censorship and allowing creativity to flourish instead of tidying itself up. You know, video may have killed the radio star, but YouTube killed the MTV. Now the only thing that remains on MTV is just pure ridiculousness. That's not a joke. I checked their schedule. It is literally all ridiculousness. Nowadays, we just remember MTV as it was, a place of rebellion and counterculture. But I don't think that was ever MTV. MTV was simply a product of its time. It only pushed limits when they were told to push limits, trying to appeal to the monoculture, and as a result they perished. Adult Swim didn't subscribe to that notion, doing its own thing, not giving a concern to popularity, allowing creators to put their own stuff out, with popularity coming their way through hard work. Contrary to the title of this video, Adult Swim did not take the crown of creativity and counterculture away from MTV, but rather earned the crown by being its own thing and not subscribing to the monoculture. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this.